Everybody's adjusting their shit over there. Looking pretty. I like it. Well, boys, it's another week here, and we finally have some good updates to talk about today. I'm not even going to do a cold open. I'm not going to talk about my lawnmower or my Allen wrenches or anything else like that. So, this is Crowns and Crows. Dragon Lakes and Valor here one more time. Let's get to the rundown real quick. Crowfall has earned about $20,000 since their $2 million hit. People are up in arms about the anonymous mods. I have no idea what that's all about. Layaway is now alive. Check out the Blue Light specials all throughout the Crowfall shop. Shout out to Scree with the interview with Gordon Walton. It was a pretty good one. We'll touch on a couple points this show probably. And we might have a little multi-box discussion going on tonight, depending on whether or not a bro joins us here in GameVox. Again, guys, hop over to cf.gg for all your Crowfall news. Follow us at Crowns and Crows. Do all the likes and all the follows, etc., etc. We haven't hit the mailbox in a while. All of our shows actually have been pretty full with content. But if you have any questions, you can hit up Valor on Twitter or at Crowns and Crows or crownsandcrows@gmail.com. So, topics for today, I think they're pretty obvious. We're going to talk about the physics update. We're going to talk about the armor update that pushed out today. And we're also going to talk about the new mods that we coming on the forums, because that rose a little bit of a stink the last day or two. Valor, when was that announcement? I didn't even look at the date. Was that yesterday that was announced? Or was that like Friday?
Yesterday.
Yesterday. Okay, so it's relatively new. So I think let's tackle the physics part, because there's a lot of stuff that we kind of knew already, or kind of guessed, or kind of.
But we didn't have awesome pictures to go along with it.
Yes. Where was I? I think I was in one of the Slack channels, and I asked Tully, he's like, dude, man, you're just getting abused over there. And he's like, I volunteer for it, man. So I guess Thomas likes to shove stuff into Tully's chest on a normal basis. So let's talk about physics. Lakes, you started jumping the gun during the pre-show about physics, and you said you were going to forget what you were going to talk about. Now here's the challenge. Do you remember what you wanted to talk about?
Right. I think some of the cool things to take into effect is they made it a clear point that they're trying to not do animation physics, where it's kind of more graphically enhanced, and they're going to do actual physics. And the cool thing I like about that is some of the content or combinations that you're able to do. Maybe your combination skill set has like a knockback in it. So using that knockback, people may not go back in a specific area each time, so you can't get used to comboing them and then have your reticle set on a specific spot. Like maybe you hit them 30 degrees this way, and it could change the whole dynamics of the fight because of physics. Could change. I don't know how in depth the physics is going to be, but I know that just slight alteration of where you hit somebody or the angle that you hit them could change your combination skill set to begin with.
I mean, they're adding weight and mass and maybe a little bit of inertia. We don't know how they're going to fine-tune everything. But, if that's the case, that the point that you just brought up, which is a fantastic one, if you're a centaur and you do your combo against a centaur, it's going to be hard to kind of move big guy against a big guy. But if you do your combo against one of the little hamster dudes, you might go flying halfway across the map, and you can't even finish your combo because he's so far away.
Right, and just the dynamics of a fight could change. I think one of the big things that I'm kind of curious about is maybe what would really suck is being animation stuck between pinballing physics, where you're kind of that lighter person in between. You got hit by a meteor going this way, and then a centaur came and knocked you this way, and then your screen, you're just like bouncing basically back and forth.
Ragdolled all over the place.
That's probably my biggest thing with the physics is like, how much is this really going to affect you? Because I would really be like, what if you make a small character? Is that going to have anything to do with it all? And now you're just a pinball flying around. Like, you need some mass to stay on the ground to even use your skills.
What if they let you use your skills? I don't want to use my what if on this.
No, it's a bad one.
Man.
It's a bad one.
Yeah, I don't want to use my...
Well, I mean, here's the thing.
It's a good question.
I mean, we're going to probably... This is a little shout-out to Squee's interview with Gordon, but he talked about stealth. And, there's the stealthers and the anti-stealthers. But if the stealthers are typically smaller races, and then you hop into the middle of combat, you might just get pushed around all over the place, and you can't pull off your combo because you're a little dude in a melee full of knights and legionnaires or something like that. So, I mean, that might be something to consider as well.
Maybe. I think we'll touch on that stealth and that whole thing a little later. later, because we were talking about that, and that brings up a lot of different topics. But just the physics aspect of the game, it's going to be unique. And I'm really excited that they're coming and they're using Unity, right? Because it already had this built-in system in place to be able to allow them to kind of do what they want to do with their game. But I'm interested, like I said, to see how much this physics is going to be. Is it really going to alter the way combat is? And every combination is going to be different, because you may not be able to do your follow-up skill if the middle of your combination is some sort of knockback and then they fly in a direction you weren't prepared for. They fly a little further than you were prepared for. So I think that's one of the things that we all need to find out and see.
What about inertia? I mean, what if you are, you got a big swing with a lot of weight, and it's a big two-handed weapon or poleaxe or something like that, and somebody dodges, but you keep going forward in a certain direction. Does the game need something like that kind of uses your weight to carry you forward a little bit, or is that just more of an annoyance and that's a fun versus realism type of thing?
No, I think what you're going to see is you're still penalized for using the skill. That'll go on a cooldown, or your stamina will go down, whatever it is. You'll still be penalized for it. You're probably stuck in that animation. That is the expense. You're not going to necessarily be turned in a different direction, and people will laugh at you, but I don't see there being any other need. I mean, that is the penalty, is you use that you missed, continue on, good day.
What do you think? I mean, like when I swing my weapon at you and I connect, I stop and I'm able to do something else. But if I swing something and you sidestep and I miss, typically you might go forward a half a step, let's say, for lack of better anything else, and then that gives you enough of a lag before you can do something else, and you can't immediately combo after that. Is that something you'd want to see, like, in a lot of your act-react kind of combat system? Or is that something that's just like, no, it's just not fun, get rid of it?
I think at a certain point they're going to have some sort of controls in place to where the physics isn't overtaking the fluidity of combat. Because a lot of times that could take away from the fun of being able to use your stuff. But I do think that they are going to have maybe a reaction, like a front slash and then your back slash coming backwards, or whatever the case might be. It could be a part of your combination skill set. Use this to slash forward. Your next attack's going to be a slash back, but it's a combo effect, so you need to build into it. I don't think that I want the physics to overtake it that much to where it takes away from the fluidity of combat, would be my suggestion, at least.
I mean, that segues perfectly into my next point of physics. At what point does physics, or the reality of physics, the realism, affect the enjoyment of gameplay? Valor, I mean, you played Darkfall, which is probably the only game MMO out there that really has any kind of physics, where at least it's projectile, physics and stuff like that. So why don't you talk about that?
And one of the things that got me really excited was when they said, "Oh yeah, arrows can have some arc to them. There'll be drop." Hey, great! That's very awesome. I saw somebody complaining like, "Oh, that's going to just require so much skill." Yeah, you can get good at it. In Crowfall, though, you didn't have people bouncing around, and so this was one of the things I was going to bring up earlier was, if you're an archer and you're trying to shoot people and everyone's just being knocked around, I'm not sure necessarily how bad they're going to, how far are you going to get knocked back? It kind of becomes a little bit of a negative, and now you have to, I guess you could say it adds, skill and, tactical decision making to where, hey, don't knock a bunch of people back if you're trying to shoot them.
Do you guys?
I think so. Back on that, I think one of the give and takes could be you're a smaller guy, you are a little prone to being able to get knocked around. But let's just say now you created a little more mass on your character. You made them a little bigger. You threw on some heavier armor. Now you opened up your hitbox. So there could be the draw of, you may not get tossed around as much as you would have if you were a smaller, less dense character. But now you had a little density. You made them a little bigger. Now you opened up your hitbox for what they kind of leaked into earlier today with their leak.
I'm not ready for that segue, Lance. Not ready for it. I'm not. I think we could wrap up the physics part of it here, because a lot of it is speculation. But did you guys ever either play or watch one of those Steam early access games, Goat Simulator, at all? Have you ever seen that?
Yeah.
that's basically physics like gone crazy. So it's just fun. You get to bounce around and go. The development team has to be very careful, and they've talked a lot about all these scaling modifiers and stuff like that you have to put in to make it feel good and feel the weight of a character. But I think something like that, if you lean towards a little bit too much towards the goat simulator side of things, that it just makes the game unenjoyable for when you're actually doing it with other people. I think so. And those are two ends of the spectrum.
Where do you draw the line of people just running classes that all they do is just bounce people around, and that's that's the entire build is. All of our skills are going to do some sort of knockback or knockdown. And, I mean, now you're trying to figure out how to balance, I mean, it's kind of like a CC, so now you're trying to find anti-CC ways. I mean, there's a lot that goes into it, and so how they handle it, maybe we're just overthinking what will be a very minimal knockback.
Right. But here's my one.
Let me try it. Let me try it, and I'll tell you next show.
Yeah. Here's
Thanks, Thomas.
Here's my one what if question. What if they had a class that could alter weight or gravity? That might make it make a gravity zone where you can kind of jump and you leap 30 feet in the air. Or
interesting.
You increase the weight of your Fae, so all of a sudden the Fae weighs 1,000 tons, and that centaur charges into him and bounces off that person.
Yeah. Well, I mean, fall damage. I mean, I don't think we've got a whole lot of information about that.
No, that's enough speculation, I think. So. I think the armor update is my favorite by far in the last couple weeks. Let's save that for last. Let's because I think we're going to spend the most time on it, and I think we're gonna talk a lot of different aspects with stealth and armor and all that other stuff. Let's talk about the update that we got from Pan yesterday. Apparently, it pissed people off or whatever, and it's essentially actually, Valor, why don't you tell everybody what happened?
So Crowfall, for those who don't frequent the forums as often, Crowfall has taken a stance where they want their forums to be a very professional environment, and so they have taken a moderation approach, established rules and guidelines to kind of foster that. So they've cut out a lot of the back and forth to some degree that you could see in other games and other forums where people can be like, you know what, you're a moron, and then it just kind of goes from there, and eventually people get in game and they hash it out. At least for the time being, but from what I can see from the direction, they want to keep it away from that. You're there to talk about good things, bad things about the game. You're there to interact with people in a positive way. That being said, moderation has been a big issue that a lot of people have complained about, and it's not just one particular group or another. It's I've seen this across a number of different websites where someone would say, "Oh, this community topic, that's why we're not going to deal with it until the game goes live." One of the things that Crowfall did is kind of the next step is they've decided to make their mods anonymous and then set parameters for how long you can be a mod, and then kind of like creating term limits for politicians. So now you can offer to be a mod. They go through a selection process. You can get picked. You serve your amount of time, and then you have a 2-month down period that will help allow people to decompress, get over whatever pent-up aggression on the forums they had by being a moderator. And the reason this became such a problem is because when you do not have the quote-unquote accountability of, I know that this moderator is you, Dragon, and so when I get a stupid warning point or I get banned from you, I know you're just targeting me, and I can either retaliate in game or I can contest all of that to the community manager and say, hey, I know this person has this personal vendetta against me, and here's all of the proof, and I can show all of that. Now, once the game launches, they're talking about bans being they cross over from the forums to the game, so there's a lot of concern about issues where politics can actually play a role, where a moderator can say they can go in, target somebody, ban them on the forums, they get banned in game, messes with it.
So basically, Valerie, you're saying that Pan is terrible at her job.
That's the concern, and it's not.
Well, I mean, first of all,
listen,
I mean,
listen. You
no.
can't throw that out there.
Well, let me preface it. I mean, I didn't really mean that, but what I'm saying is, I would imagine that there's kind of a screening process here, and then there's some standards that they go through that in order to become a mod, you have to do this, and if you don't do your job properly, you go away. Pan's done this for a couple different games. I think she's ironed out a lot of the kinks here.
Yep.
So, what are your what are your personal concerns? I mean, everybody's going to be bitch about everything on the forums, but what are your personal concerns if you have any?
Personally, I'm not concerned because I've interacted with both Pan and some of the development team through just our role here on the podcast. I've interacted with them enough to understand they're going to do their job. They're going to follow through. They're going to make sure that this system isn't being abused. That being said, it has happened in past games.
Sure.
And volunteer moderators have affected in-game environments. It's a legitimate concern. Now, I don't see that being applicable to Crowfall, but I also wouldn't tell somebody they're stupid just because they had that concern. Yeah, it's happened before, so why shouldn't people be concerned until they've seen it not become a problem in Crowfall?
Look, the way I see it, and this is just me, personally, I don't care too much because they're volunteer mods. I'm assuming, and this is just me looking out, or from the outside looking in, is that in order to get banned, it's not going to be some volunteer dude going, ban hammer, click the button, your bans. I'm pretty sure it's probably going to be something along the lines of they submit something to Pan, and Pan now takes that, and she either yay or nays it. And she's the final decision on if you get banned because it directly affects whether you're going to play this game or not. So I'm assuming that that's probably the case. As far as the volunteer mods, their main job and concern is more than likely just going to be make sure stuff stays on track, because that's probably the most consistent thing in the forums right now is that things go off track. And we've had it with our own forum threads or whatever the case might be. That's what they're there for. Hey, guys, keep it on track or I'm going to lock your thread. Or, hey, this is completely getting off track and people are out of line. I'm just going to lock it right now without a warning because this is silly. Well, and that's where it is. But when it affects politics and who's going to play what or anything else like this, really, I guarantee you, because it's volunteer, no one gets the in say-so unless they are paid by Artcraft to say, you are done. These are your strikes. This is the proof. You're gone. Check you later, bro.
Over on reroll.org, we have a group of volunteer moderators that have been doing it for years and years now. And essentially, when you're a moderator, your job is not to moderate a debate or moderate the discussion. I mean, I think it's a poor choice of words to call them moderators. For more apt way of describing them is you guys are janitors. You're there to clean up the garbage. If anybody posts not safe for work material, you're supposed to throw it away. If you get two people going back and forth at each other, posting stupid GIFs and all this other stuff, basically spamming a thread, tell them cut it out. And if you give them a warning, if they don't, and then you do whatever Ace says you're supposed to do in that situation. You're not there to argue with anybody, and you're basically there to keep things clean. And there's two rules to proper moderation. Is one, you can never have the last word, and you're never to either delete or edit any posts or threads, and that's it. Yeah. You should never go beyond those two rules.
And you've actually hit on a really important piece that I think that we encountered with one thread. It really wasn't a big deal, but it's one of those. How do you handle certain scenarios? If a thread becomes off topic, lock it. If warn people and then lock it. If a thread is just straight up in the wrong place, throw out an explanation and move it. But if it is vulgar in nature, and delete it. Outside of that, you shouldn't be mixing around with those things, because if you start deleting posts just because it's in the wrong place, people are going to get upset. Yeah, they made a mistake; they put it in the wrong place. But now they have to go back through and re-contribute all of that content. Few people will do little things. I don't know. I mean, all of these very hardcore, pseudo-hardcore individuals, and I mean, just a little slightest thing on the forums, and
I think that this could actually backfire for the one person, excuse my French, it's going to be a dickhead moderator, and they go and they do all this stuff. They could do it could be twofold, right? Like they could be taken away from being a moderator for now and into the future, or Pan goes, hey, you've been abusing your things. That's like abusing on the forums. Dude, you're banned. You're being a prick. You're out of here.
And, I'm okay with that, We'll take the cliche line, with great responsibility, or fool me once, shame on you. What is it? With great power comes great responsibility. So I hope everyone understood that joke.
Or zero fucks given. That's how I feel about this topic.
I honestly don't care. The only people that have anything to worry about are people that know they're going to get dinged about something. And
those coasters,
whatever.
Man.
Those coasters.
Those coasters, exactly. All right, I got Scree here in GameVox. I'm not sure exactly what exactly a topic. He says he wants to figure that we'd like to do a follow-up.
Oh, he wants to talk about his article in Stealth.
All right, so you want to bring him on now, or do you want to head into the topic and then bring him on later? What do you think?
No, we'll go ahead and bring him in, and he can just chime in with when we ask him a question.
Hey, Scree, what's up? You're in. Is your shit working?
Have you unmuted us?
Yes.
And muted the show. All right.
Is my volume okay tonight?
Look, dude, we're not doing mic checks live during the show. so
Test.
You sound fantastic, bro.
Yeah,
So?
very sexy. All right, so what did you get at? We'll just start right here before we transition into the armor update. You had a pretty good interview. I saw that you were attempting to get some details, and Gordon kind of sidestepped all your questions there a little bit. So what was your take from the interview, and why did you call it exclusive?
Well, I was the only one that got the interview about stealth so far. That's pretty exclusive.
Okay, so tell
sure.
us.
Go ahead.
Extrapolate. well,
yeah. So basically, obviously, I'm a very biased. Obviously, I wanted to talk about stealth because that's the organization I'm running. I wanted to know how it works, but more so, we don't have a lot of background on how the skill system works.
Nope.
And that's really one of the big tie-ins to the EVE community is the EVE skill training system. And we have practically little information since launch on what exactly they're doing on that. So I figured I'd try and bridge out to some of the EVE community and see if they'd be interested in a game like this by talking about what makes the game similar. Didn't really get a lot of answers that are, if you look at the comments on that seem to be appealing to the EVE community, unfortunately.
All right, hold on, Scree. I'm gonna mute you there for a second. You got a couple dings going on every time you, I guess, with your voice activation. So if you could turn some of your notification messages off through GameVox, we'll unmute you. So shoot me up a message in chat, but you should still be able to hear us and go on. And I think you're right. We don't know how skills are going to work, and I think we get really.
We're getting there.
We're getting. I think we're
getting there.
I think we've gone.
They're kind of. It's kind of like when you're at the optometrist, all right, and you're trying to get yourself some new glasses, and he's like, all right, what looks better, this or this? That's what Artcraft is doing with all of their content. I mean, they don't have a clear picture. It's a mostly clear picture, and then they change one little thing. They're like, okay, well, how does this look now? And so with Stealth and the skill system, I mean, they're continuing to explain more, expand more upon it. Yes, there's not everything there, but I feel like with this, I mean, they really got into a lot more about how their skill systems are going to work. You've got, 100% is, human level, and then you can go past 100%.
I don't even know what that statement meant.
I mean,
whatever. I think more importantly, we all need refreshers on game mechanics and stuff. At least I do. I mean, we studied up on what the game is going to look like during the Kickstarter, etc., and then we kind of get far down the rabbit hole and we start hashing out all these little things. And I think we were talking about this pre-show. I think start of season 3, whenever Alpha 1 starts, we'll do an FAQ or what we know so far about Crowfall. But I think to remind everybody is you get skills and you get what they call powers or abilities, which are your activated abilities. And I think what reminded everybody during that interview was that there's a difference between the two. And Scree, what I think you got yourself working now. What did you take away from some of those descriptions? I guess.
Yeah, I think the important thing there is skills do not unlock powers. You sort of get powers by choosing archetypes or, um, you know, disciplines or promotion classes. And so your powers are basically determined based on those. Your skill is how well those abilities work, and potentially there might be effects or something on there.
Apparently, everybody can hear me typing when I typed into Screed. Screed, do you have speakers by any chance?
I do not.
Maybe my keyboard is really loud. Does maybe everybody hears my keys?
I thought it was
keyboard?
I thought it was Scree, but either way.
whatever. I will not type. So maybe it's my new microphone that's picking everything else up.
I think it might be. But anyway, so the key thing there is the fact that, you know, powers are sort of indicative of your character class, and then skills are just how well you excel at those. And I think the important thing to distinguish here is the other thing that I found really interesting is, you know, I think people keep getting caught up on the fact of other games, and I'll go back to the trade skill example that seemed important here. Is, you know, making 16,000 boots doesn't make you better at crafting in this game. It will up to that 20 point,
right,
you know, that soft cap. But after the first 20 that you've made, it's all passive training. So even if you call yourself a full-time crafter, you're not any better than someone who got to that 20 point and marked it as a primary skill either. And so I think that's an important distinction to make this game from other games out there, because that's not a common thing that you see in other MMOs.
Yeah, and I really think that just to go off of that, that really fits the concept of how does this game make it more of a linear process, more of that horizontal progression versus the vertical.
Yeah, for some reason, when I was talking to you before, I heard an echo. That's why I asked you if you had speakers, which was very strange.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, either way.
All right, so we got a little bit of an Scree, it's all your fault. We're blaming you. Anyway. So here we go. I mean, we have the stealth mechanics. We have the abilities different between skills and ability power, and I think some of the things that we're talking about when they affect stealth, because it combines the physics update with the armor update. And I think the first thing that I missed my first read through, and Valor pointed out to me, is that they're testing hit locations inside your hitbox, and I think that was the most important part of that whole update, was a little teaser about that. So,
oh man,
Lakes, we'll start with you, Lakes, because you're the resident combat guy. What do you think about that? Do you like it?
About the hitbox?
Well,
And
they mentioned that there was a little bit of. Scree, we're going to move you back into the lobby, brother. Sorry. There's going to be hit locations. So headshots, hit your arm, hit your body, all does different type of damage modifications apparently.
I like it. I think that it's going to benefit the person that's better at using a reticle, and it's going to be able to differentiate maybe skill. Is if someone can consistently headshot you over and over again with not only just that one arrow every time, but now they have to lob this arrow because of the physics, and they can headshot you every time. They should be compensated for that skill that's involved in that. And I really do like the concept of different hit areas. It gets tricky though, because it does make those range classes. There's now going to be a huge skill gap between someone that can just shoot arrows and just hit you in the legs and arms, or someone that can definitely hit you in those key critical areas every time. And it may even affect the composition on maybe some of the armors that you throw on. If you're more keen to getting headshot by this guy that's really good, you may have to throw on like a leather. I don't remember exactly what's really good versus piercing damage,
right.
But you can mix and match versus specific damage and some of the maybe statistics on where that generally is going to hit you based off of maybe the animation and the swing and whatever else. So you may be able to optimize your armor sets to actually fit your style of combat.
Yeah, I think you're going to get a lot of interesting melee interactions if they actually go full blow with that. Like, you know, if you can have like a low sweeping attack, you know, you can go and that slows them because maybe you mess up their legs or something like that, or you can.
Have we seen this in any MMO before?
I'm trying.
I mean, Darkfall had you could hit somebody in the back
Yeah.
and that would do extra
Right.
damage.
Well, there's backstab damage. A lot of like that's probably the big thing is if you're able to hit someone in the back, it's a percentage damage more than you would hitting somebody in the front. And that's common in MMOs. But as far as like actual hitboxes, more of like a FPS type thing, I think that really is unique to Crowfall, which is going to make this I guess that tactical combat, right? This dynamic combat evolution with the physics and everything else, it's going to make this game very unique. So love it or hate it, who knows how it's going to go.
It's just so complicated. Like, I mean, I love the idea. I love the concept. We've never seen it in MMOs, and I mean, are we magically in an age of technology where we can do everything now? I mean, we can have voxels, we can have destructible environments, we can have inertia, mass, and now we can do hitboxes on characters. Are we there? Because if we are,
we could always.
I'm freaking excited, guys.
I think sorry to cut you off, Dragon, but
I'm worried we're not there. I don't know.
Maybe.
Who knows if now, like, all this concept we keep talking about, you're excited about it, and now we talked about this last week, but this puts even more pressure onto Artcraft is can they deliver this combat to make it fluid, dynamic, and have everything else that they've talked about from day one up until now. Obviously things will change, but that right there is fit it all into this game. Let me try it out. Let's hope it works, and you guys can make a system that you've been talking about this whole time.
No, I definitely like it. I think if you build a game from the beginning with all this stuff in mind, it makes things easier as far as the network architecture that you have to put in place for all the server client type of stuff. And I'm the last person you want to ask what that actually means. I just know that that's an actual problem when you build games. And I guess the Unity stuff allows you to do these different type of things, which is great. And I know a lot of other developers didn't want to do being able to block people off with your presence or have physics with this, that, and the other because they thought it made bad or poor gameplay. It made it harder for people to play, and they were trying to create a game for a broader audience.
There's a lot of griefing,
Sure.
Especially in PvE, and there's a lot of reasons not to do it. But I mean, it just sounds like they're trying to build this super game that, and we've talked about it in the Slack channel that I'm in. Star Citizen. I mean, they're also trying to build this super game. And
no, Star Citizen's trying to make a super game. I don't think Crowfall's trying to make a super game.
I just don't know that I don't know. I don't know that we're technologically there to be able to support all of this.
You can have collision detection in a game. That's been done before. I mean, that's not an issue.
That's been done, but you add all of this together, and now you've got hitboxes, and you've got all of these other elements taking place. And
the physics is the hardest part of it.
What happens when you get 500 people at one siege?
Hopefully they can design a game where you don't have to have 500 people at one siege, but that's
another
story.
That's cool though, but can everything handle what's going to happen? Like this game, servers, everyone's computers is going to be optimized for the average person, even with bringing it down to their graphics level down. I think a lot of this optimization thing, I mean, I'm not even very versed in this whole realm, but I would imagine that even with Unity and the different coding and concepts that they have out there, it's still a tough task to make this all manageable at a large scale in one specific server. Like, I think that's going to be a little hard, and then everyone's computer be able to handle that.
Well, and people will eventually upgrade their computers. Especially for an MMO with hype and all of this, we've got a lot of time to prepare for it. But that's my big concern. I've got to see it, and I grew up in Missouri, so got to show me.
Right. So let's talk about the armor stuff, because we can talk till we're blue in the face whether we believe or not believe that this is actually going to work, and until we know that it actually works, the whole hit detection, hitting on the different parts of the body, there's a lot of different things you can build into that. So let's hold that off for another episode until we get an actual update and seeing it working. Let's talk about the armor stuff, because for those that forgot or didn't read today's update, essentially before today, Knights wore plate, Assassins wore leather, Spellcasters wore cloth, etc., and you were stuck with one type of armor type, and then the cooler it looked, the better it probably was. So now,
Thank God.
Yeah. So today, Ace said, "All right, now everybody can wear whatever the hell you want. Go have fun." And I love this.
Yes.
Because I love, just like Lakes is about to going to point out probably, I love the min-max stuff. I love building out my kit to do what I do best. And if I want to make a fire-resistant leather set that allows my knight to move faster, maybe that fits into the meta a little bit better, and I'm going to rock it out and have a lot of fun with it.
I think the big part about this is the fact that it was too simplified to begin with. As far as the damage reduction being all encompassing, you're resistant to all this damage, that would have, in my mind, killed a game when it came to actually trying to, like, at that point, it's just whoever has the best gear has the highest damage reduction, and you're going to be able to out-tank everybody. Like, it just made it very simple to where you didn't have any negatives, drawbacks, or anything as far as customizing and building out your character. So it's a step in the right direction, because simplicity sometimes is good, but not when it comes to armor speccing and damage reduction. If you put it into one encompassing damage reduction, you get this stat, and it reduces everything from bleeding to, I don't know, dude, bleeding to poison to blunt damage to, across the board, you're just reduced. That's just way too basic of a statistic for a game like this.
Well, just so think, there's a lot of games out there that allow one armor type per character, and most of them are PvE games, and basically it says, okay, well, I can only wear plate. So, there's 1,000 different plate items in the game, but ultimately there's always the best because it comes from the top-end raid or the top-end PvP season or whatever. So once you have that, you have the best, and that's the only decision that you have to ever make. And
I don't think it was about forcing that person to wear a specific armor set. What it was maybe that leather had an armor value of 80, but and then scale had armor value of 100, and then heavy armor, whatever the case might be, was armor value of 120. Now you get that person that's able to wear heavy armor now has the highest resistances to everything. That was probably the killing fact of the whole concept, is it's not dynamic enough. Because what if you do want to make that confessor that's more of maybe in-your-face style combat, so you want to bring that armor in, you need that kind of that survivability, or we even talked about it. What if to counter some of the stealth mechanics, and you're one of those casters that is prone to getting blown up if someone can get to you, now you're in a group and you throw on heavy armor on your guy. Yeah, they're not going to be as mobile, but when that stealth person goes in there, pops out of stealth, and then tries to spike you down, now you have that heavy armor to counter that. So that's like a meta counter. So the meta,
absolutely.
We talked about this earlier, the meta can definitely shift based off of what kind of damage, way people are building, and being able to optimize your gear set towards that specific style.
Well, and another element of that is, that was how these games created their, holy trinity. You'd have your tank, you'd have your DPS, and you'd have your support. And yes, there were different classes for all of them, but really they fell into armor categories, so that, that's how you're able to identify what people are doing. And so, yes, this opens up this whole new, flower of, possibilities. People are able to go and, change a flower of possibilities, all right? And it sprouted out of this seed of information. So, what we're able to do is we're able to take that. We're saying, okay, ArcAge had a somewhat similar concept. They still were talking about doing set bonuses. So there's so many different ways you can get into this, and you can do the gems now for each piece, and you can tailor this to however you want to play your character. Fantastic. It's going to be interesting to see how the meta adjusts from campaign to campaign, or even within campaigns, as people start realizing what they can and can't do with their gear.
This makes crafting a little bit more interesting, because now as the meta shifts, you might not need plus better gear. You might have to craft gear with different types of stats on it to adopt your class to whatever you wanted to do. And I think more importantly, it's similar to an EVE style system, where EVE, you have your modules and your weapons and your different loadouts, and the different shifts allow you to do different things, and you can load out different tools. So essentially, Ace is giving your character a way to equip different tools, whether you're more mobile, or you're more tanky, or you have higher resistances but lower hit points, or whatever combination you could possibly think. Plus, you're going to have there's also going to be all these other tertiary or type of stats where it's resistances to slashing, or like whatever it might be. There might even be other type of stats on gear that you can kind of pick and choose now.
There's other elements to this though, because whenever something new shows up in Crowfall, one of the things I like doing is I like going through and saying, okay, how is this going to break the game? I think Blixtev actually had a thread up, or not a thread, but a thread he was posting in, and it was related to some crafting something or other, and he said, okay, this is what you do. You start off and you say, okay, if this is a given, how does that affect player interaction? If it's good, it's bad, and you just go down this list. And when we look at how can allowing players to min-max their gear like this break things, and what we're going to see is we're going to see players who are able to eventually, or just luckily, happen across a unique blend of skills, powers, and equipment. And that could potentially break the game. They found the one way to max their damage out, and they can just one-shot somebody every 5 seconds.
I love emergent gameplay like that. I think Todd speaks to it all the time too. That he loves seeing weird shit happen that he didn't intend. People have fun with it for 3 months. It makes them excited. They all right, guys, we got to fix it. Okay, and then you find the next broken thing, which is great.
But should they address that for that campaign? Because
you want to talk about that now? That's a whole other subject. Should they address it? No, Todd already said they're not going to ninja nerf stuff. They're going to wait till it plays out and then nerf it later. I think he said that during one of our interviews with him.
It's
see.
It's a good question because
depends how broken it is.
We still don't know. There still has been no clarification about their stance on alts and campaigns. So if somebody's out there and they happen to have this build, how do you handle that?
All right. Do you really want to get into the? You're segueing all of you guys are segueing into other topics way too early. We're not even done with the armor stuff, and you want to talk about the multiboxing
What else do we have to talk about armor?
So I have something.
No. Well, here
just nitpicked what was in the update today, and I put it into the chat, and it talks about percent chance to affect your stealth abilities, and I was just asking for general thoughts from some of the people. How do people feel about percent chance in any kind of statistics going into a PvP combat game?
That's that RNG shit that we were talking about
last
week or 2 weeks ago.
I think it was 2 weeks ago, and we weren't as big of a fan. Sure, obviously give yourself some base protection, but really make it more. Somebody pops out of stealth, hey, backflip out of that, get away. See some sort of player-determined counter to what other players are doing.
Yeah, I think the last part about you want predictability in your play session, and if you have a 10% chance to 100-0 somebody, I think that's kind of weird. We talked about instead of having a proc, you normalize it, so you have internal cooldowns versus having a 1% chance of it going out. So.
I think certain things I'm against in particular is the percent chance for the specific example, percent chance to affect your stealth abilities, or and that could even go into percent chance to cause bleeding. That stuff is RNG, because what if I'm lucky enough to every time proc you and get bleeding and bleeding and bleeding? And it's an RNG. I'm not a fan of it. So I was just wondering what people's thoughts were, because that's just an opening of what could be possibly down the line.
We have to wait. I think hopefully we could talk about that. They took our questions a week or two ago about combat questions, and Thomas hopped in for an update that he gets to write. So they might actually do some combat updates with answering some of those questions about that. I think we could bring that topic up back then.
We had a solid list.
We had some good
collectively,
stuff.
The community had a solid list. You put together some really good ones as well. So,
my last point about armor before we transition on to these, let's get the multi-box subject out of the way on the show, and then we can kind of bury it until we get some more information. But the last point about armor is what I fucking love about what Ace is doing is they're not scared to make their game complicated or more interesting. Most games typically take out the complicated systems and make it simpler for people to learn and get used to. They're just adding more and more layers of complexity to make the game either more skillful or more interesting for, I guess, veteran players. And I actually respect that, and I love it. Because there's plenty of easy games out there you can go and play. You can go pick up World of Warcraft and go play that all by yourself and get to the max level and grind your way up some gear, and you don't really have any decisions to make. I can't wait until I can get to a game again where I can actually start making decisions about, well, this item is not necessarily better than this item, and we could kind of go from there. And Lakes, we didn't even talk about your having multiple sets of gear and switching them out for before and after combat. Do you want to jump into that, or do you want to?
I think that's one control that they need to take into effect, is the fact that people shouldn't be able to openly switch their gear. Obviously, this is all going to be space dependent and how much you can carry on you, but I'm not a fan of someone being able to swap their gear in the middle of a fight to deal with specific damage that they're getting targeted with, because they're getting hit with piercing shots, so they switch all their gear out to negate that. Like, realistically, how long does it take Valor to throw on his plate mail to go LARP on the weekend? It takes quite a while.
He needs his wife there, tighten those buckles.
Have you ever seen The Last Samurai? All right, we get into this like pretty cool montage, and you just see it from a couple different angles, the chest plate and the shoes.
And that's my point, is that you cannot throw on gear that fast. So it obviously is going to be inventory dependent, because you may not be able to carry a bunch of stuff, but I don't want to see it to where people can actually just stack armor to the best of their ability and be able to swap out. Like, maybe they just only carry headpieces in their inventory and they're able to swap out for that.
Well, here's how they handled it in Darkfall, because you could actually swap out gear at certain points, but it took time. I mean, some people created macros for it, but the typical person, it took time. And I'm okay with that. If you can get out of combat, you have the inventory space, because if you are carrying a second set of gear, that's probably going to take up a lot of your inventory. You have the inventory space, you get out of combat, you start dropping all of your gear. It's not a double click, it's a drag and drop. It might take you 10, 15 seconds.
I fucking hated that inventory system.
We used to do that in Guild Wars 1 before they nerfed it. But you had multiple gear sets, so when you were getting in a position where
Guild Wars 1, you just
swap out gear and your weapon sets.
They made it automatic for you. You could even be like, oh, what was it? Like, you could set a hotkey for it and it'd swap your gear out for you.
So that's my big concern. I really hope
stay away from that.
Because if you could swap mid-fight, that's just fail. And I'm pretty sure that they're probably on the same page as us, but
make it take time.
RNG, you click it, you swip it.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing is, if you have all that gear on you, you don't have the inventory space. So even if you do kill people, you can't take all of their crap. One thing is, how are they going to handle destroying gear? If you want to just grief somebody, can you drag stuff out of their corpse and drop it on the ground and it dies? I don't know. Be curious to hear about that at some point, but
we'll see. Well, we have to wait to how the inventory system works. How if armor has weight to it, does it slow you down like some of the old school games, stuff like that? So we'll wait. We'll probably revisit this down the road once we find out a little bit more. And I think we've got about 12 minutes left before we hit the 1 hour mark, and I think the last subject we probably want to touch on is maybe a little bit of the multiboxing stuff. There was giant threads about people multiboxing and stuff like that. Personally, I don't really care. I mean, not many people multi-box as a percentage of the population, but Valor, you were kind of passionate about it. Why don't you lay down
to some degree? So, as anyone who's looked at the forums, they saw this particular poster, the Nebrosity, ardent supporter of multi-boxing. He explained actually how he multi-boxes and the variety of ways that you can multi-box, and his whole position was people will do this, and in his opinion it will create a competitive advantage for them, and thus Ace should go ahead and allow that or allow other systems. And I look at that and I say, if Ace allows multi-boxing, they are actually setting the standard. If you want to be competitive, you will need to have at least people within your community with multiple accounts. How you can handle this otherwise is allowing multiple characters or alts into campaigns. And this is where the three of us actually disagree a lot.
I don't know if we disagree a lot. I just I don't really care too much.
On how to approach it, I'd say we disagree because your idea of what is a problem and isn't a problem is very different from mine.
Let's break it down. Let's break it down. Let's break it down. Let's get to the hard.
So
hard
my
facts
issues
here.
with
I'm excited.
My issues with the system. I'm going to give that a knife hand. My issues with the system are this: if you allow multiple people to multi-box, then that sets the standard. If you allow multiple, we'll just assume multi-boxing is out because that's what they said. Multiple characters in a single campaign. People will log in, 3, 4, 5, alts, and they will be able to effectively teleport around the map. And say they are attacking somebody's keep, some other guild comes over, starts attacking theirs. They just log off that account, even though they're maybe 15 minutes away if it was by a ride. Log on to their other account, and bam, they're there to defend. That is a game-changing mechanic, or in
You're
my
not going to
opinion,
be
a failure.
Me and Lake's, you're
design.
crossing your definitions here a little bit. You mentioned alts and multiple counts in the same scenario.
We're assuming multiple accounts. You're
not going to be able to stop that. That's always going to happen.
Yeah, but multi-boxing completely no. But multiple accounts, you can't stop it.
You can't multi-box in this game because of the Twitch action. It's not like you can run scripts and
it
key
doesn't
presses
make a
like
lot
that.
of sense.
You can't do that.
It doesn't make a lot of sense.
So I think
But strategically placing,
Alts.
like Valor
Alts.
was saying, put his other accounts in specific spots on the map to where he can log out. So there's a tactical advantage to it, and you're not using it to try to all your accounts log in and you macro and spike down one person. It's more of a tactical advantage of placing them in different spawn points around the map. Like I'm down here on the southwest corner. It takes me 30 minutes to run up there, or I could just log out real quick and then jump on my guy that's around the same level, and now I can fight for another piece of key terrain. So I think that's probably the biggest valid argument that Valor has towards that stuff, and I agree. I think that's broken, but what can you do about it? Like
there's three things you can do about it.
Well, I already said one, but we said it was impossible to do.
Right. You're talking about multiple accounts or alt characters per account.
I'm talking about putting multiple account characters in different spots. Yeah. So being able to, what Valor was saying legitimately earlier today, was being able to take those accounts and log off a character from each one of those accounts in specific areas. Impossible to control. How can you stop that? You can't stop that.
You can't stop that.
However, the one way you could stop this, which is not a mechanic in Crowfall yet, is when you log out as is. Your character drops just like a survival game. So if you want to strategically put all your dudes naked across the map, and I just happen to stumble across them, hack you up, and then take all your stuff through my looting process, then by all means. But then there's tons of other issues involved with that. But, I mean, that's honestly the only way you could solve people having multiple accounts and strategically placing them all over the place.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
Rust does it. Rust did it.
I think you can't really control how many accounts you can have. The one thing is if you log out and you're not in a safe place while you're logging out, then you're going to lose a lot of people or frustrate a lot of people by like, oh shit, my internet died, I just lost all my stuff, or all that other. Those are still valid concerns that you have to have because you are still playing an MMO, whereas games like a lot of survival games might not be completely reliant on persistence over the long term, maybe over the short term, but not over the long term. Like games like H1Z1, it's more play session or multiple play session lengths, not 3 or 6 months. So that might be cause a problem. So I don't know that many people that are going to have multiple versions of the game to be able to do that.
I don't see that being a big deal either, to be honest.
I think when it really comes down to it, like, if a guild is specifically that dedicated to put multiple accounts and put it all over to win, I mean, that's one of those things. Like, I can't ask every one of our members that's playing for us to be like, hey, go out and buy another account because this gives us the clear tactical. This gives us the clear tactical advantage. If people want to do that, they want to do it. How can you stop it? I don't know. But I do like what Ren talked about, is making people safe log out in their guild hall or some sort of like base that you might have or something like that, to where that's the only place you could safe log out where people can't go and hack you to death when you drop on the ground. But if you want to strategically place your guys, well, you get murked. So,
well, I mean, I think ignoring the multiple accounts, let's talk about alts on a single account. There's three different things I think we can do. There's a couple of different valid complaints or questions to ask about this. The easiest solution is you can only have one alt per campaign.
I mean, that's ground rules, easiest way to handle it, period.
Yeah. But
the biggest complaint is, what if I just get tired of playing that particular class? We might be on here for 6 months.
Right. So that's, how do we do that? So then you could do other things like, in order to swap out characters in a campaign, you can do it at any time, but there's a 7-day cooldown for that, so you can't abuse that. Or maybe it's a 1 day, or maybe it's a 1 month. I don't care what the time limit is, but essentially you can't swap them back and forth constantly. It's kind of like a server transfer on MMO. Maybe it's a cash shop charge or something like that, so Crowfall can make $1 off of you or something like that. So maybe there's a mechanic like that. Then there's the most liberal option is essentially you can have as many characters as you want in a single campaign, but in order to swap over them, if you log out, let's say, character A, in order to log in character B, there's a 1 hour wait to switch characters. So that way you can't really change in the heat of the battle or to react to anything quickly.
Yeah, I agree. And because, that was the reason why I didn't think they were going to allow alts on a campaign at all whatsoever, is because they said, you know what, you're going to make decisions, you're going to live with those decisions, and at the end of the day, hey, that's what you picked. But that can be kind of a stern thing to tell somebody who, they rolled this particular archetype, they're in there with their guild, and they don't particularly like it anymore, or something is going on that they just really don't like it. For us, I say, sure, let people switch it up every now and then, put it on a really long cooldown, so it's not just whenever I feel like it, and then maybe sell it in the cash shop that you can double how many swaps you can do during a campaign.
The only reason I'm leaning towards not being able to put multiple accounts in a campaign is I really like the aspect of maybe going into a map you don't know anything about it and making guilds and groups of people and teams or whatever that you want to call them, hierarchies and different whatever, right? You make them prep going into this to where when it really starts to get towards the competitive side of the house, the people that did the most prepping and worked harder towards the going into the game, they're just better off. And that has to do with even prepping, and the whole reason why the EK is there is you're building for that next campaign. And if you don't make that worthwhile and let people just swap into an alternate account, then you're not really giving a repercussion for the people that planned wrong. However, I do agree with you, Valor, in the fact that I really feel like some people they want to swap characters. They didn't like that guy. This is their first time in there. It's awful. So putting it on some sort of cooldown could be the middle ground. The middle ground or some kind of
I kind of like the idea of, if you want to go truly hardcore, and again, Todd's like, maybe it's a campaign thing that you can't ever swap out or anything like that.
We might be able to do this in this particular campaign. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah, right. So, but maybe to
give us your money.
To Lake's point of view, I kind of like the idea of a guild group, whatever, being able to predict the future meta inside of a campaign by bringing the right archetypes from the very beginning. And that allows for a lot of different strategy shifting now you have to adapt your team to what's going on versus, if I had only brought my druid with me, and this would be so much easier, let me log out and swap one in and solves all our problems at that point. So I kind of like the hardcore version of that, where there's no swaps, but then I get sick of characters after playing them for a couple of weeks, and I'm gonna be like, I really wish I brought in my knight versus my confessor or something like that. So
right, and I think another thing that we kind of missed in particular was the effect of having multiple accounts could solve that problem for people. Right. Like, what if they did make it hardcore? Then someone just buys another account, and now they can log into this campaign and play it. Not pay for their VIP anymore because they bought that other account. Now they have another account with another character. Now there's no reason for VIP because now they bought the game, right? Yep. They don't have to pay anything else to it, and now they can passively skill up that one person on that account. Now they have another account where they're passively skilling up again for another class, and now there's no reason for VIP. Like, they won the initial $50, but if you ask anybody that is trying to make money, I would love to sell you. You only pay me $19.99 per month for a year, or over you pay me $50 and you get it for the whole year to begin with. I'd rather have the subscription over so monetization plan would benefit making people want to buy VIP.
Yeah, and you bring up good points. Is VIP more valuable than owning 2 accounts? And
owning 3 accounts is the equivalent of having 1 account with 10 months of VIP. It's $150 versus 1 account at $15 a month for 10 months.
And so this, it's just math, and at some point, I'm sure that as the game is better fleshed out, they'll be able to look at and say, you know what, guys, maybe we need to up the benefit of VIP.
Maybe.
Because, I know that in the long run, it's better for them to have people paying monthly on an automatic payment than just getting $50 up front and then maybe never getting any more money from that account.
So I think we'll see what they allow in the rules, and we can talk about it as we learn more. We just hit the 1 hour mark, so I think it's a good place to end because we've hit all of our topics, and I think we exhausted all of our opinions yet one more time, one more week. Again, guys, you can always join the show at GameVox, and once you log in, I'll shoot you a little message asking what you want to talk about. It could be about anything in the after show. If you want to hop in and talk about anything, do that. But if you're going to call up during the actual show itself, please be on topic. You want to talk about something that we're talking about, join the conversation. Any comments, questions, or concerns, you can always send them to crownsandcrows@gmail.com. Shoot us a tweet at crownsandcrows. All the other information is below the stream. Links in the YouTube channel. Shoot us some comments. We get some dialogue going. Again, great week. We'll see you next Tuesday, 8:30 Eastern. Guys, have a good night. Take care.
Peace, guys.
See you guys.